everyone, let's look at the November 2022 question 2 from their paper 2. This is a stats question and it counts 8 marks. So question 2, they're saying a company conducted research among all its employees on what percentage of their monthly salary was spent on fuel in a particular month. So it's important to note that they're not saying what amount was spent, they're saying what percentage of their monthly salary was spent, right? So that's quite important to note. The data is represented in the OGIVE cumulative frequency graph below. Okay, so we can see on the y-axis we have cumulative frequency, and on the x-axis we have percentage of salary spent on fuel. Now the first question is a knowledge question. They're asking us how many people are employed at this company. Now guys, to get the total number of people essentially that took part in this, we need to look at the highest point on the OGIVE, the last point. That is the total number of people. So there are 60 people employed at this company. That is worth 1 mark. The next question is now asking for the modal class of the data. Now guys, for the modal class, we're going to have to look for the biggest jump from one point to the next. So if I'm comparing the first point and the second point, for example, the difference in frequency there, now if we're looking at the y-axis, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little bars making up 10. That means that each line represents 2 people. So between the first and the second point, we have 0 people, and then we have 4 people. So that means that there are 4 people that spend between 5 and 10% of their salary on fuel. So we can look at the jump there. The highest jump between the 2 points will represent the modal interval, the interval with the most people. So to me, it looks like I'm going to look at this point here, which is at 24, and then the next point is at about, that to me looks like about 45. Right, so that is quite a big jump. So I'm going to say that that is the interval of 20 to 25%. So that would be the modal interval, 20 to 25%. So you can just kind of estimate that by looking at the OGIVE. But if you wanted to, you could literally calculate the difference in y values of each of these points. All right, next up, the next question is asking for how many employees spent more than 22.5% of their salary on fuel. So now we're going to have to go to the x-axis because that is where the percentage of salary is. So we're going to go to 22.5. We're going to draw a line going up to the OGIVE from there. And then from that point where it touches the OGIVE to the y-axis, that is going to give us the number of people. Now, that looks to me like 34. Now, what that means is that 34 people spent less than that percentage, right? Spent less than 22.5. So now, since they're asking for more than 22.5%, we need to look at the number of people that are above that percentage. So from 34 to 60, that is going to be 26 employees. The next question is saying an employee spent 2,400 Rand of his salary on fuel in that particular month. Determine the monthly salary of this employee if he spends 7% of his salary on fuel. Now guys, we actually don't need to use the OGIVE for this. They are telling us that 2,400 Rand is equal to 7% of his salary. They want to know what 100% is, right? They want to know his actual salary. So to calculate that, we're going to say 2,400 times, we want 100%, so we put that at the top. We have 7%, so we put that at the bottom. And that will give us the full salary amount, which is 34,285 Rand and 71 cents. Now 2.5 is a bit of a problem-solving question, but you can do it if you understand how an OGIVE works. They are telling us the monthly salaries of these employees remains constant, and the number of liters of fuel used in each month also remains constant. If the fuel price increases from 21 Rand 43 per liter to 22 Rand 79 per liter at the beginning of the next month, how will the above OGIVE change? Now, the fact that they've given actual values here, I think makes you feel like maybe we need to do some calculations, but that's actually not the case. We only need to address what's going to happen to the shape of this ogive. The shape of the ogive is going to change because now if your salary remains the same and you are still buying the same number of liters, but each liter is more expensive, that means that in total you will be spending more money on petrol. That means that every single person is actually going to be spending a higher percentage of their salary. So the percentage is going to increase. So for example, our first point here of 5%, that is going to move to the right because that is no longer going to be 5%. Because the petrol is more expensive, that is now going to be more than 5%. That is going to happen to every single point on this graph. So what we can say there to get those 2 marks is that the ogive will move to the right. And that's it. I'm quickly going to put all the marks in here for this question. So for the second question, it was 1 mark there. For 2.3, we had 26, that was 2 marks. For 2.4, it was 1 mark for showing your method and then a mark for the answer, but you also got full marks if you wrote the answer only. And then for the last question, you got 2 marks if you wrote moves to the right.